Yo, it's Guido coming at you with a tank review, my friends. Look what we have here. Holy cow, the Vipera, the Tier 8 Italian TD auto-loading monstrosity, has shown up in my account. You know, since the political events over in Eastern Europe kicked off, it's been a little bit strange with the development and stuff with the game. We haven't heard much about this particular Tier 8, and it just kind of showed up in our accounts the other day to do some content. And we all knew that the Italian line was coming out, and there was a lot of information and stats on the Tech Tree tanks, but we didn't hear a whole lot. Although the info was out there, we didn't hear a whole lot about the Vipera. Up front, the version I have has 2 more kilometers an hour of speed. I want to make that known, so I don't forget it. It shows 32 right here. It's actually going to be 30 is my understanding when it's released. It is currently release day right now, but there's been a delay in the release. When this goes on sale is when you see this, more than likely, because that's when the NDA will be up and we can drop our videos. So I don't know anything about price or how it's going to got, okay? I don't know. It sounds to me like they're just going to sell it, but who knows? Maybe there's some kind of marathon thing coming up or somewhat. So this is all in the past at this point when you're listening to this, so you should know how that is done by then. So this is the tank right here. It is a Tier 8 TD. It's basically a heavy. It has a semi-turret. I want to say it's 30 degrees, field of regard, 45. That's nice. It's 45 each way, so the turret does turn. It just doesn't go all the way around. Heavily armored assault TD with 5, my friends. Check this out. 5 clunk shells in its autoloader. All right, let's take a look at the numbers. We'll take a look at the armor. I don't really have in my setup. I'll show you what I've done in 2 games. That's all I've been able to play so far. I don't have the ability to put it into the whatever it is, comparison tool yet, because the rest of them haven't been released and that capability is not there. That's something that's fallen out of the cross-check, I think, for Wargaming, although I am still in the garage for update 1.7, whatever it was. So I don't have 1.18 because it's been delayed. So we're doing this a little bit bastardized right here. Just for the basic numbers, though, we have a 400 alpha gun. We have a 220 alpha penetration AP round with a 264 APCR. For a Tier 8 TD, that's a little bit anemic. So I had a couple games with, I think, Tier 9s involved, but I didn't fight a whole lot of Tier 9s. It didn't bother me too much. But that will bother you when you start seeing the 10s and you're trying to figure out how to pen it with this thing. Still, though, 5 shells at 400 with a pretty good standard pen of 220, which is quite nice, actually, for a premium. And then the 260, whatever it was, for the APCR. 5.27 rate of fire, but this is a little weird because the total reload is 32.88 seconds, the way I have mine set up. We'll get that in just a second. But there is 6 seconds between each shell. So you have 5 shells, but you can only shoot them every 6 seconds. So if you're thinking autoloader, bang, 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 it's more like bang, bang. What's interesting about that is it allows you to play it like a cyclical gun for 5 shells in a row. But it's actually a fairly fast-firing, pretty darn good DPM machine during that time, at least in terms of a 400 alpha gun and this much armor. So you will be able to, for 5 shots, be a 6-second reload kind of hard-hitting 400 alpha guy. Okay? Can you always make that happen? Not necessarily, but, if you think about the timing of the game, you pop, you shoot, you pull back to avoid the shot. In about 6 seconds, you're ready to go out again. That's much faster than other heavies and TDs. Just something to think about. Of course, when you're done with all that, or if you force a reload somewhere in there, you're sitting down for 32 seconds. You're on the bench. All right. Gun traverse is fairly slow, like most TDs with turrets at 19.71. It goes 45 degrees either side. It does have -10, which is perfect, extremely comfortable. 2.74 aiming time is a little bit long, and it is derpy at 0.38, and that's with my setup with a little bit of help in there. We're looking at 2,110 DPM, but with an autoloader, that's a little misleading because that's an over time kind of thing, over the minute, and taking into account a long reload. The time when you have the 5 shells, you have a lot of DPM right there. Or DP half a minute, because that's about what it takes to get those shells downrange. Essentially, that's 1 clip worth more or less based on a 32-second reload in a minute. 1,520 hit points is decent. This armor, holy cow, 210 on the hull. We'll look at the armor profile in a minute. 275 on the turret. It's not very sloped, but it is quite thick with a little bit of slope. And we're talking people are going to need high 200s, around 300 really, to reliably pen this thing in the turret. And then the hull a little bit less. So you're talking probably dabbing 2 for most tanks, okay, for the turret. We've got I talked about the speed, so it's going to be 30, not 32. Break. Any of those numbers could change between now and then, okay? So just take all this with a grain of salt. Concealment is okay. My view range as it sits is 393, which is a little anemic. As you can see, I've got a pretty good crew. I took a bunch of the special crew I have sitting around that I didn't have anything to do with. So they're all very good. I haven't even dropped any books or anything on them. And then I was dopey, and I made them Vipera crew, which is silly. Don't do that, guys. If you buy this thing, make it one of the other TDs that you might like in the line, potentially the tier 10, or if you're going to grind, make it the I don't think I'd start with the tier 5, probably the tier 7 or 8, so that crew that in your Vipera is getting those guys ready. There's a lot of ways to do that. Because you have to start at tier 5 with this particular tree, I'm probably not even going to worry about moving up the crew from 5 to 6 or so. Somewhere around 7 I'm going to put a crew in, and then I'll follow those guys up. But don't do what I did and make them a Vipera crew. That's all I'm saying. All the standard stuff over here, they have Brothers in Arms, obviously, Snapshot, Smooth Ride, Take Intuition, that's huge. This is a bit tricky with the rounds because each clip is 5 rounds. It's very easy with 5 rounds if you force a reload to come up. With my setup, I've got 10, right? So that's 10 2 clips of 10 rounds. But if I shoot 3 and reload, now I have 7. And then if I shoot 4, now I have 3. See, it gets a little goofy. So you might consider potentially just running all APCR in this thing, or all AP. APCR is probably better because you are going to run into 9s and 10s. Just something to consider. It's going to be a little goofy managing the ammo with that. I switched it to this for one game just to kind of see how it felt, and it was exactly what I thought. So I've got all kind of the standard stuff over here. I think one mistake I made is I only have one guy with repairs right now because this is going to be an assault TD. Have a deep thought about that because you may want to do that. The crew is a commander, driver, gunner, loader, which I believe is the same for most, other than maybe the tier 5 and 6 of the Italian line right there. The way I set mine up for now, because it's going to be assault kind of TD, is I've got vents, I have hardening, and I've got the IA just to try to tame that gun a little bit. We've got it down to 0.38, like I said, based on the way I've got it set up with the vents, the Brothers in Arms, and the IA. That's about as good I think we're going to get, unless you put some bond or bounty kind of things on there. Excuse me. You could run, a directive in there to help that as well. Of course, food. Let's just take a quick look at what food would do for that. If anything, yeah, it gets us down to 0.37. I don't have any info on the fire stuff. I didn't take a look at the percentage for fire, all that good stuff. Hardening should help with that, I believe. It does help with... No, that's just suspension stuff. So you would want to go with a modified config if you're trying to decrease the possibility of a fire. That's something else to think about for the assault TD kind of idea. So there you go. That's how I've got it set up. That's the Vipera in a nutshell. I did say we'd look at the armor. Let's take a quick look over at that stuff because it is crazy. Look at this. I mean, frontally, just a beast. I did get pinned a few times. Obviously, the side is quite soft. No problem for going through the side, and it's very flat and big. So anything that gets around the side of you, like most TDs, you're going to have trouble with. At least you do have 45 degrees of turn with the turret. So when you're spinning around and trying to get somebody, you have a few more options than just bringing your gun straight onto these guys. But straight on, look at this. It's just very thick armor. Some auto bounce stuff for the angled stuff on the side. And the whole, while not as good based on the angling, is not bad at all. 240. Effective 270. Now the lower plate is quite thin, and it's very small though, but it's very thin, just 40 something millimeters. So if someone's look up at you and you've exposed that part of your tank, then that can become problematic there. But that's the armor profile. Let's take a look at a couple of games and we'll have a chat on my thoughts on this. First game I had was here on Erlenberg, Himmelsdorfer, Dorfenberg and Himmels. Let's see, hold on. Come on now. Come on, Guido. Get your stuff together. Come in here. Looking for a shot in case people cross. This position is pretty perfect. I would have loved to be where the T-26E5 is, but it turns out they didn't push across or challenge them. Plus, we have a defender here. So I say, you know what? This thing looks like it's got a ton of armor. Let's go test out that armor. That usually goes badly in this game when you say, ooh, I got great armor. Let's go test it out. But check out how this little engagement goes. And this poor Ferdinand. Now, he's not being particularly smart in what he's doing, but I'm just going to come up here into that superstructure. Bounce. He bounces me. I flap him, blap him, smack him for 429, and we do it again. There's that 6 seconds, right? So you can't go bang, bang, bang. You've got to wait just a while. I peek over there, and he's bounced me twice with his 490 Alpha, and I've completely obliterated the poor guy, shooting right into that superstructure. Now, I still have 2 shells, right? I could still continue to engage, and then I'm going to have 30 seconds. But as I pull back and I don't have any customers, then we'll hit C, and we'll get the reload going on. Okay, so we'll speed this thing up. Get reloaded, see how long it takes. Quite a ways. So we'll come over here and see if we can find something to shoot at. Just as we reload, we're not seeing anything. Nope, nope, nope. Okay. So now what we want to do is go see the next engagement. We'll pull out of here. Oh, I wanted to show you this. Now this is pretty funny. This poor AT-15 is going to come out and he's going to attempt to take on this tank. We come out, we don't quite see it. He'll be out here in just a minute. Trying to get a shot on the even 90, but he gets away. Snapshots are not easy with this thing. Dispersion's quite large. It zooms in okay. Even 90 doesn't come out. Pretty soon here we will have the AT come out. I am not running any gold. Here he comes. I'm not running any gold on this thing. Now I don't think he's going to pen me, right? So if I keep enough forward armor to him. That was not quite fully zoomed, so a bit lucky there. I knew he was going to leave, though, because he's going to zoom in quickly and fire and start backing out. So we've popped him. We bounced his shot. No problem. Of course, he's not shooting gold either, right? The Ferdinand's second shot was a PCR, which we bounced. The AT wasn't firing gold at that point. Here's a good example. I've taken the 1 shell, but I have 4 more. So instead of hit C and reload all the way around the corner, which I potentially could have done, I'm going to come over here with my 4 shells and see what I can do. That guy doesn't seem to be interested in pushing out, so I'm actually going to, once again, test the armor on this thing. Let's just push in on this guy and see what we can do. He's not quite liking that I'm coming in here. I'm going to take a bit of a cheeky shot here. We bounce. All right, I have 3 shells, no problem. Here comes the AT. So he's going to give me that nice little spot there. We'll shoot him once. We'll move in. Try to keep the 50 TP. Unfortunately, I bounced our own AT-15. This guy knows he's in trouble. Trying to make sure I can get a shot there. There we go. We get a 388 on him. And he's done nothing to me until there. He finally got a shot. In fact, I wonder where he pinned me on that one. Did he get into the lower plate finally? Or I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure. It's hard to see here. Maybe in the lower plate. We'll look for that hole in just a minute once I turn to where I can get the camera to look at it. There we go. So what happened here? Did we get a lower plate shot? Did he sneak one into a hatch? That is a heck of a question, my friends. A heck of a question. Let's back up, because this happened a couple times with a medium, and I don't really know where he hit me. Let's see where we're getting hit. All right, that was a track shot. Maybe he's getting up under the track, huh? Well, that's what it looks like, doesn't it? It looks like... I do not see it, unless you any of you other eagle-eyed people see it. I think he came up under, but I don't see that hole under there, right? There's no hole behind that necessarily. I'll be honest, I don't know. Did he go through the side right there? I'll be honest, I don't know where he pinned me on that. I'd have to have that shot mod. So we're on the big long reload. That's one of the weaknesses of a tank like this. If they could get to me, I'd be in big trouble. So I'm just going to sit here and reload. We'll speed this up while that happens. And now I'm just going to come over here. We're going to turn our turret towards this dude. Try not to give him too much of the side of the tank as we come around. And we'll just blap him as we're going in. He was about to cover up behind the other tank, so I thought I'd give it a shot. I figured if I missed or bounced, I'd push up against that other tank and we'd take him out, no problem. Make a mistake here. I'm crossing while still lit, more than likely. I'm going to eat a shot right about there. There we go. So I should have sat back there for a while, and I gave away those hit points to the Su-130 right there. Just going to fast forward. We end up losing this because I'm a bit of a buffoon. I get circled by this even 90. I've only got about 585 hit points, unfortunately. We're going to push this guy up against the building there. We're going to try to crush him. Things were going quite nicely. I get him up sideways like that, and then we come around here. I'm trying to put the gun on him, and I'm about to shoot. I get the shot, and then second shot, no. Got attacked by a prosciutto from behind. So we get 2,900 out of that. We've got 3 kills, and I think you see a pretty good example of some of the strengths of that particular tank, and then some of the weaknesses, people getting around you. Obviously, in any tank, that's going to be a problem, and of course, the team is collapsing. Let's take another look at another example. Second example is here on Himmelsdorf. This is another good setup. What I'm not showing you, because I only have 2 games in it right now, is some big open map where you're trying to actually be a sniping TD. That is going to give you a little bit of trouble based on the dispersion of the gun. So if you're going to try to play like that, you're probably going to want to do a few more things to try to knock that dispersion a little bit down. Obviously using bounty or bond stuff. The directives, whatever you can do to bring the dispersion down to something more or less than 0.38, which is where I am. All right, watch this. So I will actually get a shot into the side of the T-34. I am running gold this time, so I've got the APCR with a little bit of extra pen. As he was sort of turning, he's actually hurting himself a little bit because he gave me a little bit more of a flat plate. So I took 2 shots, and I'm going to actually hit C and force a reload because I'm not ready to get up there and start punching him in the face yet. There are still quite a few of them right there. I'm going to reload, come around, and then I want to get close to my work. All of a sudden I see the CS-59 come in. All right, now that was amazing. Where did he just get me? Ah, look at that. Now, is there a weak spot? Very interesting. Is there a weak spot right under the turret there? You know what? I don't know, but let's go find out real time right now. Wow. Is that really is that really where he just got me? He was looked down a little bit, so it was a bit of that kind of angle. Look at that, would you? Now he gets me twice. Let's find out if he hits me in that same spot twice in a row. That is where he hit me, right? Yeah. Okay, that's actually pretty amazing. So he gets that surprised me during the game. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. When I spun around and tried to find out where the hole was, I didn't actually see it right there, but now we can see it directly right there on the turret ring. Very nice. If he was aiming for it, that was a great move on his part. Let's see if he does the same thing. So what I was thinking then is with the armor, look at this. I just bounced a T-34, which has pretty good pin. Okay, so that one looked like maybe he was aiming for the lower plate. Did he get me into the lower plate? Oh, look at that. That one went into that tiny little... Look at the right there. He got into the lower plate. Not this lower plate, but the... Good on him, man. That is absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Luck, skill, a little of both. Hard to tell. This is what I'm talking about, though, with this tank that is so brutal. I am very glad that AMX did not have another shell. Otherwise, I'm out of the game. That was very surprising. I didn't realize that he had beat everybody on that side. It's only the 2 of us up here and the T-26E5. But when I came up there, I knew I had the 5 shells. I thought I'd just bull rush and face punch. And I figured I'd be fine. Now, the CS-59 has hurt me, and now, like any tank, someone on my side is no bueno, and once I see that, I figure I got to push in. It is a good thing he didn't have another shell, or I'd be out of this game. We just go in here and face punch the poor thing. All right, this was my example of what I was talking about. If you look down at the shell count over here, where I'm sitting at 3 APCR, if I reload for 30 seconds, I only get 3 APCR and not the 5 because I forced a reload earlier. Have a think about that when you set up your rounds, man. You may want to just go pure gold. It does hurt your profits. I mean, if you want to turn it into a profit machine, you might want to go pure AP. I don't know if I would carry any HE on this thing. That is a whole That is a whole 5 rounds, and you've only got 50 in the entire tank, right? I've taken 7 shots. I've got 43 left. So you'd only have 45 and a whole clip of HE. So that's going to take a little bit of thought on your part. Now we are going to find out here that while this is not exactly super long range, and zoom does take a while. There you go. It's okay at 0.38, not amazing. We're going to try to bait that guy a little bit. See if we can shut him down here. Nope, we're going to bounce, unfortunately. It's all right. We can sneak up here. We can push the KPZ out of the way, and we can shoot this guy. A little bit rushed right there, but I thought he was going to cover up against the cover. Zoom. Nice. I mean, if you can sit there and fire, and unfortunately, I make a bad choice just sort of shooting right at the mantlet. I should have either gone for that weak spot or a little further down onto the top, but I went right into the face of the turret and got a bounce. So this ends up, I think I actually get, no I don't. I'm not going to reload. I tried to push the KPZ off, but I think there's an invisible wall there now that you can't quite go off of that. You used to be able to drop down on that stuff. It looks like you just can't quite get her done now. That was an ace tanker. We had 3 kills. 2,480 damage and 65 assists. It was only 1,100 and some change. I expect that to go up considerably. Probably more like a class 2 in the next 3 or 4 weeks, I would imagine, once this thing gets out and about on that. So let's jump back into the garage and we'll wrap it up. Well, what's the verdict? What's the final thought? Man, I generally don't tell you to run out and buy something or, hey, that's the flavor of the month. And I don't know, this thing's pretty close to that. And while I'm not saying you got to go out and get one of these things, they are pretty brutal. And with the new equipment and the field mods and things you can do to kind of personalize this tank, it is a brute at tier 8. It is essentially a heavy for all intents and purposes. It is an assault TD. The armor is pretty fantastic. The thing about tier 8s is tier 9 and 10 cover up the sins of overpowered tier 8s. That's just the way it is. We still see them rise to the top. You all know which ones they are. I can't do a comparison necessarily. We could go over to tanks.gg, but just think about this for a second. What are the other autoloader tier 8 TDs out there? Well, the MLE 48, which is on nobody's list of good tanks, and then the GSOR 1008, which is more-ish of a sniper, but dude, this guy only has 4 rounds, right? This guy has 4-round autoloader of 320. And while he kicks them down range a lot faster with a 2-second in between shots, we got a 400 alpha here with 5 rounds that can play as a 6-second reload, 400 alpha heavy for 30 to 40 seconds at a time. So when an engagement is going on in your hold down peek-a-boom turret game match, that's pretty brutal if you're close enough to make your shots. And we all know there are plenty of those kind of spots on maps because they build them that way. You didn't see a game on an open map. It is going to be more limited on something like that. It's not particularly fast necessarily, but 30 is enough to get it where it needs to be. We'll have to see what happens on things like Malinovka, but think about Malinovka going up the hill. What an absolute monster this is going to be coming up the hill towards the mill, up the hill towards the mill, towards the, what is that thing? Windmill. Towards the windmill, and getting up there with your 4 rounds and just absolutely punishing people up there and bouncing everything. We will see what happens. I'm not going to declare it OP. It feels to me like it is a bit broken. I don't think necessarily OP, but that remains to be seen. It's going to take 6 months to a year before we start seeing it. There are people that are going to be running around freaking out about it, more than likely. I don't think so, because its limitations in the meta, things like its speed, is going to limit its capability. But on the correct maps and the correct situations on other maps, it's going to be a very difficult tank to deal with. It's just a face-punching monster. It really is. And there you go. That's my opinion on it. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Are you going to buy it? I don't know if it's going to be for sale. That's the problem. I have no idea how this thing's going to come out. But by the time you see this video, you will know that. Good luck out there. Dab 2, I guess. I don't know. Hope you're in a tier 9 or whatever. You know, it's not invulnerable. It's just heavily armored. You are going to have to press 2 in a lot of cases. Or, you know, like the CS-59 did, get me right in the turret ring and then that tiny little lower. That was awesome. Good on him. That is all I've got for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate your support of the channel. As always, if you're looking for other ways to do so other than smashing on that subscribe button, you can check all those other ways out down in the description. We will see ya.